Commissioner Greenside, I'll second that motion.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Carl Benninger as vice chair of this commission.
Any more nominations? With that, we can close the nomination and take a vote.
Do we have a motion to close the nomination?
Do we have a nomination to close or a vote to close the nomination?
I'll make a motion to close nominations and take a vote.
Commissioner Walker, I second that motion.
Can we vote to close the nomination?
Commissioner Manager. This is to close the nomination period.
Agreed.
Commissioner Greenside,
Agreed.
Commissioner McLaughlin. She said yes. Commissioner Romero. Yes. Commissioner Walker. Yes. Vice Chair Tremaine. This is to close the nomination.
You just call him vice chair. Chair.
Vice Chair.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
You got the
The motion to close the nomination period.
Now we would like to vote on
Moving forward.
the nomination of Commissioner Carl Benninger for the vice chair. We have a motion.
This is Chair Commissioner Jermaine. I'd like to make the motion to proceed with the voting for vice chair.
Have a second.
This is Commissioner Greenside's. I make a second.
Let's vote.
Commissioner Manager.
Yes.
And by the way, we are now voting for position of vice chair of ETAC pursuant to the nomination for Commissioner Benninger to be the vice chair. Commissioner Greenside,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Navarro is not here, sorry. Commissioner Romero? Yes. Commissioner Walker? Yes. Chair Tremaine?
Yes.
The motion passes. Commissioner Benninger will now be vice chair.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations, bro. Chair Jermaine, moving forward to the next item, would Rudy Rosas, Principal Civil Engineer for Water Resources, introduce item 5, Santa Ana Watershed Weather Modification Pilot Program. This item, just as a reminder, is an informational only.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Today we have with us Mark Norton, who is the Water Resources Planning Manager for the Santa Ana Watershed Project. And Mark will be presenting to us a very interesting project which they are looking for the city's support in, which is the Weather Modification Pilot Program. With that, Mark has some slides and presentation to share with us through Zoom. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and bring my PowerPoint up now. Slideshow, there we go. All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you a project the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority is considering actually potentially starting in November of this year. First, let me explain who we are. We're the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority. We're a joint powers authority with 5 member agencies. They include Orange County Water District, Inland Empire Utilities Agency, San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, Eastern Municipal Water District, and Western Municipal Water District. We serve an area of about 5,280 square miles, population about 6 million. We work with many water agencies across the watershed, mostly the western portions of Riverside and San Bernardino County and North Orange County. We have 63 cities within this watershed and work with many, many special interest groups, nonprofits, state and regulatory agencies. Now let me jump into the pilot program that we're looking at, also known as cloud seeding. We also call it weather modification. The state of California calls it precipitation enhancement. So this is a process, all means the same thing. The concept is basically to take silver iodide, which mimics basically the nucleus of a snowflake. It is very effective in binding water crystals, and the way it is introduced is basically by
Mr. Chairman, did you
ignition.
start your presentation? Because we're still seeing just the first page of your PowerPoint. Can you click?
Should I hold or continue?
Yeah, you need to click start your presentation on your slideshow because we're just seeing your first page, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I do have that. Mine's advancing, but apparently it's not advancing on your end, huh?
Yes, no, it's not. So you need to select the screen on your computer.
Do we need a share on our end? Is that the share button?
We now see the third slide, if that makes any difference to you, Mr. Norton.
Okay. Maybe I can just go ahead and proceed on the third slide then. Okay, you have that in front of you as well. Silver iodide is burned basically by a propane flame, and then it is introduced by wind action rising up into the mountains, into the cloud formations. We need clouds in order for this to work. And the focus is really on increasing snowpack, not necessarily precipitation, but snowpack in the mountains. Silver iodide has been shown to be very effective in this fashion, and basically it simply supplements the amount of rain that can be pulled from a cloud. It falls back as precipitation or snow, depending on the temperatures. I'll go ahead and advance to the next slide. Cloud seeding history. Years ago, there's a lot of uncertainty.
We don't see the fourth. I think maybe what's happening is we have two separate screens and we're not seeing the screen that you're looking at.
Okay. Let me see what else we can do.
We may be able to screen share on our end. Give us a quick second.
Okay. Apologize for it's not showing up. I see it on my screen.
Okay, just let me know when you're moving to the next page. I'll just flip it here on our side.
I think you also need to start screen share on Zoom because
Yes.
it may not be showing at the moment.
So I'm on slide 4 right now.
One quick second.
Cloud seeding history.
Bottom left corner. You see it now?
Should I go ahead and proceed?
Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of misconceptions about cloud seeding in the early days. A lot of people thought it would be the answer to all our challenges with the drought. A lot of misconceptions, but since that time, since it was first introduced back in the 1940s, weather modification and forecasting has really improved. The computer modeling and prediction tools are effective. Seeding methods improved. And more than anything else, the scientific validation studies have finally been conducted, particularly over the past few decades, that really do show that in fact it does work. The challenge with it is that it only increases the amount of precipitation by 5 to 15%. And it's really dependent upon having those right conditions to seed. Next slide is on slide 5. These are the US projects that are currently conducting cloud seeding. And this was a surprise to me when I first learned about it, is that there are many, many programs across the Western United States. Here in California, there's over 15 ongoing cloud seeding programs. They're operated by power utilities, ski areas, water resource agencies, irrigation districts. In California, some of the more prominent ones that have been around for decades are the Santa Barbara County, Sacramento Municipal Utility District. And then just not too far away from us is San Luis Obispo, and they started just about 4 years ago. DWR has indicated that this is an accepted water resource strategy. They have it in their California water plan. They consider it safe and effective means of augmenting local water supplies. Next slide, on slide 6, ground-based seeding methods. One on the left is called a cloud nuclei generator. Is probably one of the oldest types and most commonly used. Basically, the pellets of silver iodide are fed in the very top, and they're ignited by a propane gas. And they basically become very, very small dust that is at the nanogram level, and it floats up and is a plume up into the mountains. The modeling studies and feasibility studies that these consultants do are able to track and do projections as to where these would be the ideal locations to be installed. They're pretty much at the foot of the mountains. There's also another type called AHOGs, automated high output ground seeding systems. They're ideal, particularly along the coastline, where the stronger convective storms can bring up a greater concentration of silver iodide into the mountains. Next slide. Licensing and permitting. One issue that often comes up and questions arise is, how do you know that you won't get sued for this? You're basically adding more snowpack or precipitation. Well, the first step is ensuring that we use operators of these programs that are licensed, know what they're doing, and carry liability insurance that protects not just them, but also their clients. So that's pretty important to make sure that we have that protection, because we know anybody can sue anybody for any reason, and having that insurance will be important. There's been really, in essence, very few lawsuits that have been resulting from this program here in the United States. Another part of this is also suspension criteria. Basically, we don't operate the program when we have high precipitation events. When we have atmospheric rivers, a large Pineapple Express types of rain events coming in, we wouldn't turn it on. There's no reason to. We don't want to cause any floods. We're not wanting to cause any damage to any property. This is not the intent. And the reality is that when a seeding event occurs, it can only increase the amount of precipitation about 1 to 3%. And for any individual storm, maybe over an entire season, between 5 and 15%. There's no state permits that are required by the state. They need to be informed. But you do have to go through CEQA, and a mitigated negative declaration is typically conducted. And we're currently going through that. We'll be finalizing that by June of this year. Also, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration also requires reports on the activities and the seeding that is applied. Big question also comes up, and we got this from the Forest Service, is would you be taking rainfall or snowpack away from adjoining watersheds if you activate this cloud seeding? And the answer is, after many, many studies that have consistently shown that there's no precipitation decreases on the opposite side of the mountains. In fact, there actually might be some downwind benefit, downwind wind actual increases. So they actually could benefit from programs we have in our watershed. Always a concern is, what about this silver iodide? Is it toxic? Silver iodide actually is a natural substance, but they do artificially make these compounds, but it's not soluble or biologically available. It doesn't break down, but it's at such a small particle size that it has no impact on physical, biological, aquatic soils, vegetation. Is the level that it's applied is no more than what is the background level. And this is even proven after decades of operation. And actually cannot be actually considered potentially beneficial because of the increased runoff. And there are strong studies that have shown this to be the case. There are regulations. The US government, Public Health Service, and EPA have their limits on silver iodide. They've indicated 0.1 milligrams per liter for drinking water. For US Public Health Service, 0.05 milligrams per liter, still very small quantity. The seeded rainfall basically is at 0.1 micrograms per liter, 1,000 times less than the EPA standard. So why is SAPA considering cloud seeding? Primarily because our commission asked the staff to look into this. They had heard about what was going on in the rest of the state, what Santa Barbara is doing and others. And they thought, if this is a legitimate water resource strategy, why aren't we pursuing this? Why aren't we investigating it to see what we could do to enhance precipitation? We know the trends are trending down as far as flows in the Santa River watershed, and even in the Santa Ana River that Orange County is very dependent upon. Those dry years and droughts do occur, and we know that those will be more frequent. Cloud seeding, based on a feasibility study, could increase stream flow by 8 to 11% at a fraction of the cost of imported water. And it also could help infiltrate the groundwater basins, particularly out in Orange County. Next slide, is slide 12, water rights. This is a report that was produced by the California Department of Water Resources. Question also is asked by many, what about water rights? Can you claim water rights on this additional rainfall? And state law states that water gained from cloud seeding is treated basically as natural supply in regards to water rights. So basically you can't claim it as an additional water supply. It is simply all part of the natural environment. We've conducted a feasibility study. This was back in 2020. This is on slide 13. We have found, based on this study, that it could be technically and economically feasible. Our commission felt that it would be good to first do a pilot program and actually see how it performs. Are we closer to the 5% or closer to the 15%? Santa Barbara, for example, has seen 15 to 20% increases on an annual basis, on an average annual basis. The cost of the program per year is about $250,000. And the potential increase I could see in stream flow is about 8,200 acre feet, or 8%. The cost per acre foot, if we were able to capture all that water, is about $25 per acre foot. Here's a graphic, it's titled Feasibility Study Outcomes. Shows you the modeling that is done for these cloud seeding programs. And a great deal of science goes into analyzing the various wind action that occurs in the watershed, the mountain ranges, the elevations, what we could see and forecast from previous storm events, and what likely we would see as far as coverage of the target areas. This is just one of many, many scenarios that they ran. So you can see the red dots, and those reflect the ground seeding site. And the maps show the projected plumes of the cloud seeding. One thing that our commission felt very strongly about, and this is on slide 15, is a validation program. Basically, having an independent consultant, an independent research firm, do some validation to really confirm whether we are in fact getting increases because of cloud seeding, or whether this is just simply a natural increase. And how do we do that? There is science associated with that. It's called a target and control process, where we find adjoining watersheds that reflect similar conditions, look at their history, and compare it to the target areas over time, so that we can evaluate what the difference is. We do this by not just looking at snowpack, but also snow chemistry, the stream flow gauges, the rainfall gauges, precipitation gauges that exists. This will be conducted over 4 years, and we'll be evaluating these increases, and the independent consultant will be on board to just evaluate everything that the operator does to see again if in fact this is an increase that we can count on. Pilot scale program, a feasibility study back in 2020. We have conducted a lot of outreach. We've gone out to many agencies across the watershed. And a part of that also is seeking local cost share support. Besides some SOPA member agencies, we're looking for other agencies that might be willing to pitch in monies. We've completed the ground seating site analysis. We know where the locations would be for the ground seating units. CEQA is underway, should be done by June of this year. We'll be applying for a grant to cover 50% of that cost. And the pilot program could start in November of 2022. So we're doing a great deal of outreach and public engagement, as mentioned. I've talked to many regulatory agencies, Native American tribes, nonprofits, and water agencies up and down the watershed already. The grant, if we were able to obtain it, would cover 50% of the costs. So we're looking for that 50% local match. SOPA member agencies would cover the lion's share of it, and other agencies could help out. These are the agencies that have already committed to it: Chino Basin Water Conservation District, San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency, Big Bear Lake Department of Water Power, Lake Elsinore San Jacinto Watersheds Authority, San Antonio Water Company, and City of Corona have all believed in this, that they're willing to put money to where their support is. And we're continuing this outreach. And we'd like to see if the city of Santa Ana and its associates would be interested in helping to participate in this program as well. I think it goes a long way to reflect that support. An amount of $5,000, I think, would be beneficial to our efforts to reflect that support. So that concludes my presentations, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
This is Commissioner Benninger. Kind of curious, well, first of all, very supportive of this project. A long time ago, they used to fly with aircraft, put it on top of the clouds. Any reason why we're not looking at that here?
We did look at that as part of our feasibility study. Our challenge is that we're a very urbanized watershed. There are a lot of aircraft that come in and out of the watershed. And so it is a bit of a challenge to operate planes that would go back and forth in the mountains. There is one location that we looked at that our consultant thought that might be possible. That is in the San Bernardino mountain area. The logistics associated with getting a plane up, and it's rather costly to do cloud seeding in that fashion, though it is fairly effective because you're doing the seeding right in the clouds as opposed to counting on wind action to disperse it. It would add probably about 3,000 more acre feet per year. Based on the recommendation of the feasibility consultant, they recommended that just for the pilot, would start off with the ground base units. That's sort of the workhorse of the program. If it's successful, we can look at that in the future.
My second question having to do with one of your earlier slides, mentions acetone. How much acetone are we looking, and what was the purpose of acetone?
I'm afraid I didn't understand the question. I couldn't quite hear it. Could you repeat that?
First slide, you talked about acetone.
Acetone, yes.
Yes, and you mentioned that is mixed with acetone for vaporization. I know acetone vaporizes very quickly.
Yes.
What percentage are we looking about, and is there any environmental hazard with using acetone?
As part of our CEQA analysis that was looked at, the percentage of acetone, again, is minimal. We are about 100 times below the the standards associated with any type of limits associated with dispersion of any chemical or vapor or products into the air. So I believe that we're looking at concentrations that would not be an impediment to the environment. The Air Resource Board would be part of the CEQA review, and but their concentrations are very, very low.
Could you also explain, please, just a few words what CEQA is?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Explain it in a very simple, quick explanation, what the CEQA, I know what it stands for, but like the rest of the commissioners to know. Your CEQA.
Quick explanation of seeding.
No, CEQA, you're saying you're going through a CEQA review.
Yes.
I know that because I'm a chemical engineer, I work for Dow, and I've been through those. Would you explain it to the folks here so that they understand what that is?
Yeah, CEQA is California Environmental Quality Act. Whenever you go through a project of any type, you have to go through basically an environmental review, and it's required by state law. And we go through a mitigated negative declaration because this is a project, a new project that we are building something. That's the ground seeding sites, and there is a concrete platform. So we have to make sure that we are clearing those areas. They are fenced in. They're protected from the public, and we want to make sure that they're going to be able to be operated in a safe and reliable fashion. So part of that mitigation is in ensuring that the right entities are contacted. We have reached out to Native American tribes, for example. If you do any type of disturbance to the ground, they have to be notified and given the opportunity for consultation. That's an example. But overall, this project really has a very small footprint. Each of these clouds nuclear units are really very small in size. The AirHog or AHOG rather, AHOG units that will be installed, there's just 2 of them, and they're along the Orange County side because they're closer to the coast. They would have a concrete platform, and they do have basically flares that are surrounded by what they call arresters, and this prevents any sparks from spreading or causing any wildfires. But again, there would be clearing and a concrete pad to prevent any type of danger associated with that. The fire departments would also be notified of these units so that they're aware of them.
Thank you, Commissioner Greenside's here. I noticed that based on the map of California, a lot of the projects so far have been in the Sierra Nevada. And I see now that the proposed sites, it looks like there's going to be a bunch located here in Orange County. So my question there is, what was the thinking behind focusing most of the projects so far in the Sierra Nevada? And my second question is, have any indigenous tribes or groups been consulted about this process that's taking place in any part of the state or even any part of the nation?
The first question is, they are finding a great deal of success in the 15 other programs up and down the watershed, up and down California. The closest one is San Luis Obispo or Santa Barbara. This is it would be the most southerly proposed cloud seeding program. And I guess that's a big question of whether we would see the same type of results as the many other programs in California. So that's why we're doing the pilot, is really to check it out and see how effective it is. We have had representatives from the Department of Water Resources come out and join us in presentations. And they're enthusiastic. They think that there's some value in this. Many of the climate change scientists that look at atmospheric conditions and the impacts from those are watching and are very interested in seeing how these programs develop. I didn't quite catch your second question that you had asked.
Well, just to reiterate, I wasn't so much why it's taking place here now. I was asking about what the thinking was with first testing it in the Sierras based on that map of what's existed so far. But the second question was, have any indigenous tribes or groups been consulted throughout all this process?
Have the flood control districts, I'm sorry, is that what you're asking?
Indigenous or?
Working the sound is very, very poor on my end here.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. My question, the second question is, have any indigenous or native tribes been consulted throughout this process?
Yes, we have quite a broad list of Native American tribes that we have reached out to. We have offered and provided presentations about this project, and several of them have participated. And the overall response has been very strong enthusiasm and support for this program. We have not received any negative pushback, and they're excited about it, frankly, particularly recognizing that they could benefit, for example, up in the Saboba tribe out near Hemet. They're very reliant on local water supply capture. This will be additional supply that they could capture and replenish groundwater basins that they use for their water supply. So once the science is presented, I think most people have been generally supportive, particularly seeing that this is not a new program. It's an active, ongoing program that's been and continues to be implemented across the Western United States.
Thank you for that. And just to fix my first question, the question wasn't so much why is it happening here now? The question was, what is or what was the thinking of focusing the projects that have existed so far in California, seemingly based on the map, mostly in the Sierra Nevadas?
I don't really know the history on how the other 15 across California came about. I think in the end, you need cool temperatures and mountain ranges and forest lands for this type of program to work. It is, again, the focus is snowpack. And if you don't have that, you don't have clouds, you don't have the cooler temperatures. And of course, you have that in the Sierra Nevadas. So I'm sure that was the ideal locations for these types of programs as they came about. We're now looking at a new frontier in some ways, looking at our local mountain ranges here. Obviously not as cold as the Sierra Nevada, but they can be potentially something that could be supplemented with additional snowpack.
Any more questions for Mr. Norton?
Hi, this is Commissioner Walker. I have a question about the last piece in the presentation, the public outreach campaign. Do you anticipate, or would the group anticipate additional funds needed to run the PR campaign? Either through municipal and county PR campaigns in the past, and they can be quite expensive. So I was just wondering if you would come back to the department and ask for additional funds, or would that PR campaign be produced in-house?
I apologize. I really could not catch 2/3 of what you said. Maybe it's the mask, or maybe that's again, the sound is really difficult to hear. Could you repeat that question?
Of course, I apologize. apologize. Would the PR campaign for the public outreach
Yes.
portion of this project, would that need additional funds from the partners who are contributing to the $250,000 for cloud seeding, or would that PR campaign would the collateral be produced in-house?
We would work that in with the overall management of the program. Right now, we had funds that were available to us to conduct the outreach. The outreach is largely being done by myself and our general manager. We have just simply, particularly over the past 6 months, have done a lot of intense outreach. So the public outreach costs are part of the overall program, and we would incorporate that within our overall management of the program. Some of the bigger costs would be, of course, the actual operator of the program. We also have the validation and separate costs associated with Desert Research Institute, but there'll be management costs for the entire 4 years, and a part of that will be outreach. We also just recently brought on a communication specialist who will help us with this. So we're doing it largely internally. There's no outside consulting firm that we're using at this stage.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you, Mark Northman from SAPA, for the great presentation, and I know you have City Santa Ana support, and we'll look for opportunities to help you out. Thank you for that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This is Chair Jermaine. At this time, seeing that there's no more further discussion on item 5, we will move on to item 6, Neighborhood Block Transformation Contest with Michelle Mikulev, Community Liaison. Will you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Michelle McKellar. I work with the City of Santa Ana Public Works Agency. I coordinate the Neighborhood Block Transformation Contest, and the deadline for this year's contest entries is Friday, May 20th at 5 p.m. After the entries are received, we'll review the entries to confirm they're complete before giving them to the judges for review. And then we'll start the judging time in June. We're seeking 3 commissioners to volunteer to judge the entries received. The judging involves 1 to possibly 2 days of just reviewing the entry pictures in the conference room here at the Public Works Agency, and then possibly 1 to 2 days in the field judging the entries. And for the field judging, you would meet at one location at 9 a.m. And then I would drive you to, I would drive the judges to each of the locations that are being judged. And for your reference, I provided a handout on the Neighborhood Block Transformation Contest details, along with a rating sheet that would be used by the judges. As a judge, you're provided a complimentary lunch, along with snacks and waters for giving generously of your time. Last year, Commissioner Benninger and Jermaine judged, and we welcome them back again as judges. And would any of you like to be judges for the 2022 Neighborhood Block Transformation Contest?
It's fun.
I do, Commissioner Greens, actually, I do have a question. Historically, which have been the neighborhoods that submit entries into this?
I'm sorry, you said historically what?
Which neighborhoods have historically submitted entries into this?
Last year was our first year launching the program, and it was during COVID. So we received 3 entries during that time period, and they were in the northern area of Santa Ana. We welcome and encourage entries from all areas of the city, especially the southwest area. And we hope that each of you will enter your block into the contest.
That's a challenge.
I also want to mention the Commissioner Romero, she joined us toward the end of the project, and it was great. And I really would like the new judges, only for the fact that they need to see more of the city and see what's out there. And so right now, we're getting possibly 3 judges right there at the end of the table. I'd like to nominate them as judges, not that I have anything against it, just I like the idea of all the commissioners being involved in this.
Do we have any volunteers?
Commissioner Green said I'll volunteer myself.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Walker, I'll join.
Thank you.
We'll make it fun.
Commissioner Romero, I'll join.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Romero. Thank you so very much. I'll be following up with you in the near future regarding the details. Thank you again.
Chair Jermaine, just like to thank the commissioners for volunteering their time to participate in this relatively new event that's beneficial to the city. I myself had participated last year in the contest. You really feel good about it. You really feel the rejuvenation in people's spirits within the city. And the program is awesome. Carl was there, and also Romero was there, and it was really good. And so thank you, Nabil, and staff for allowing us commissioners to participate.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving on to item 7, an update on current construction projects. Then we have Sean Thomas, Senior Engineer, to present this informational item.
Hello, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sean Thomas, and I am a Senior Civil Engineer with the CIP Delivery Group. I'm here today to give you guys an update on current construction projects. And the title is a little misleading. We have a lot of construction projects going on, and we'd be here for hours if I was going to go over all those projects. But today, the main point of my presentation is to show you how you can get information on active construction projects. Next slide, please. So there are different construction resources that the public and community has to access construction projects. There's the construction project map, the capital improvement program schedule, and you can always connect with our office directly at the phone number shown on the screen. Next slide. So let's first go over the construction map. In order to find the construction map, you can follow the link that's on this presentation, but an easier way is if you just Google City of Santa Ana construction map, it comes up. Or if you Google City of Santa Ana Public Works, and then you click on construction activities on the left side under quick links as highlighted on the slide, and then you click on construction activity, that will get you to the project map. Next slide. So now let's look at the map itself. So when you click on this map, it takes you to the map of the city with the different construction project, the areas highlighted on the map. Let's see here, go to the next slide, please. And then when you click on one of those circles or lines, it will tell you the name of the project number, the estimated start date, the estimated completion date, as well as a brief scope of the project itself, and then contact information in order to get more information on the project. Now, for the program or capital improvement program schedule, you can get it also from the Public Works page, so you can Google the Public Works page, and then under quick links, you can click on the first link there, which is Capital Improvement Program Schedule. Next up, please. Then a schedule that looks like this will pop up, and on this schedule, we have various information like the project listing, the name of the project, the council awards that are impacted by the projects, the project managers, the project budget, and then a timeline for the project that kind of shows where we're at on as far as progress for the project. And as you can see on the timeline, you have a green section, a dark blue section, and a light blue section. The green section represents the design phase of the project. The dark blue section represents the bidding and award phase of the project, and that's when we're transitioning from design to construction. And the light blue bar indicates the construction phase of the project. Excellent. So that's how you access information for our construction projects. Now to just go over a few of the projects of note right now. We have the San Lorenzo Sewer Lift Station. This project was briefly put on hold because we had an issue with the contractor, but it's just recently been restarted. And there's a community meeting coming up on April 21st to kind of go over the project status and reconnect with the community on this project. The anticipated completion is winter 2022-2023. Next slide. Another project of note is the Avenue improvements. This is from Main to Oak. On this project there, we're installing this huge storm drain system, and that's pretty much been the main focus of construction up to this time. The anticipated completion date for the storm drain is summer 2022. They're also going to be undergrounding utilities, so all the power poles that we see within that corridor are going to be going down, being removed, and the utilities are going to go underground. That should be done by summer 2023, and the street will actually be completed by spring 2024. Next slide. Another interesting project that we have going on is the Santa Ana Zoo Giant River Otter and Primates Trails exhibit. That's currently under construction, and that will, the anticipated completion date is spring 2023. You may have noticed some activity on South Main Street. There's a large project going on there that's been going on for some time now. The project status is we're completing the underground utilities. We are almost done with all the sewer work. We're about halfway done with the water main upgrade, and we're working on the street lights, and we're beginning the decorative concrete intersections, so you'll start seeing some of that. The anticipated completion date is fall of this year. Another project is the Lincoln Avenue Pedestrian Pathway. That project is pretty much done now. We're wrapping it up. The completion date, and we're on schedule to complete in spring. So we're right about done. And if you haven't got a chance to go out there, we invite you to go and take a look at it. It's really beautiful. It came out really nice. And that's all I got. Do you guys have any questions?
This is Commissioner Benninger. I know this isn't a responsibility of the city, but we're now made national news today about our streetcar. And what breaks my heart on that is that in the future, few of the projects of streetcars are just gonna be slowed down by what's going on here. And now they're talking to suits and merchants against Orange County. Orange County has refused to today announce they were not gonna support or reimburse diversions. I don't know, is there any end in sight of this project?
The city is doing all we can to support the merchants and OCTA and Walsh to expedite the work. But our hands are tied. It is an OCTA project. We do inspect it and we do quite a bit of noticing of issues that we see in the field. We let Walsh and OCTA know about those things, but like you mentioned, it is a challenge communicating with both of them. But the city is committed to helping or assisting the merchants. We're doing all we can, but hopefully the project would continue moving on, and it's been a challenge. That's what I can tell you.
Because one of the safety items that bothers me is when they're digging the pits and leaving them open for 4 or 5, 6, 7 weeks at a time. I'm surprised we haven't had any injuries or somebody ran into them by accident or things of that nature, let alone the fact of what it's doing for the businesses. And I know OCTA must be concerned because they contacted me today about the 55 widening projects. They want to talk to our neighborhoods about it before it starts. I'm just reading between the lines that they'll be concerned about the imagery they have in the city right now.
I'm hoping that the 55 will be a lot smoother than this one, but this has been a challenge for us, for our residents and our merchants, and the city itself, because it is impacting us in the city government itself. We're having to put a lot of energy and effort in trying to help the merchants and to see where we can step in any which way we can. The OCTA board meeting yesterday was very lively. About 30 to 40 speakers spoke in regards to the project, demanding all kinds of assistance and help in promoting the business, all the way to financial assistance to keep the merchants, viable or the business viable during construction. It's been a challenge. We're working through it. We're hoping that OCTA and Walsh would come to terms and keep the project moving.
Sure. One other question I do have, these questions I get all the time. Street improvements. By the map of projects, can they see where streets are going to be improved or the planning is for street regeneration?
So the map, there's a map for the construction projects. That just shows the active construction, but you're referring to upcoming future projects.
Yeah, but we're looking for street repair, streets are going to be repaired when, I'm sure you have schedules when they're going to be reslurried or things of that nature. In my neighborhood, I'm South Coast Plaza, Metro Classic area, and it looks like half of it's been done in spotting points. I'm sure the others will be done too, but is there somewhere that someone can see when the street repairs are scheduled?
Yes, so for that, you refer to our CIP, our Capital Improvement Program. That's posted every year. If you just Google City of Santa Ana CIP, you can see what's planned for the upcoming fiscal year as well as the 7-year plan. But the way we determine how to repair streets is through our pavement management program. Every 2 years, we hire a company to physically go out and walk and inspect every single street and assess the condition of it and assign it what's called a PCI, Pavement Condition Index. That goes into the pavement management program, and then it analyzes what's the most cost-effective street to fix. It's not always the worst street. It's, you know, streets, as it deteriorates, it gets exponentially more expensive to fix. So the way the pavement management program is designed is to target streets that are about to fall into a much more expensive category and try to fix those before it falls into those categories. So sometimes people might be wondering, why are you slurry sealing a nice street? And that's the reason, because, you know, by slurry sealing that street, we preserve its life and keep it at a relatively small cost, which gives us more money to fix the streets that are in bad condition. So there's a rhyme or reason, there's a method to it. We have a pavement management program, but to answer your question again, to see what's coming up, the best place to look is the CIP.
Commissioner Greenside's here. Thank you for the update on all the construction projects, and I appreciate the updates on a lot of the utilities projects, especially the storm drains, because I know that once it does rain, all of a sudden, boom, things start flooding, so it's good to get ahead of it before it actually occurs. And to that extent, I'm curious to know, especially with a lot of the street projects, are there any research or any sort of information that can be made available to the public about how those projects are taking place? Like, this is how we do our construction projects, and then post it on social media so that folks can be aware of, oh, that's why this is taking place.
So we have a pavement management page that if you, it's on the Public Works website, there's a link to that, and that kind of describes the process that I just described. So maybe it's, you know, a matter of doing some more social media outreach to promote that page, and that can give people a better idea of, you know, our methods.
Awesome. And one other thing too, I think about with a lot of street repaving is there much consideration in your office or with your staff of different materials that can be used moving forward? Because I know a lot of environmental research that's taking place is showing, especially like in Los Angeles and heavily suburbanized areas, that paving over the entire earth is not going to work for anybody in the long term if we can't allow the earth and the soil to breathe as it once did. I know Santa Ana itself, the history holds that this area used to flood, and then we set up homes in places where it floods, and then we have to do all these other things, but now we pave everything over, and so as soon as it rains, the water just goes direct out to the ocean, and our local water we pull water from may not be getting replenished in an effective fashion if we keep paving over it. And so is there any regard to different types of materials that still withstand nature, but will allow the earth to breathe?
So we definitely look into environmentally friendly treatments. All of our projects use recycled rubber in our pavement, which is kind of the gold standard to give us the best performance of the pavement, plus, you know, be friendly to the environment. You know, we're not doing many widening projects, or we're not really increasing the area of impervious surfaces much. However, what we are doing is with every project that we do, we have to do a water quality management plan. Certain requirements kind of trigger that plan, and so it's often triggered. And so when we do a project, in order to comply with that plan, we have to look into how can we infiltrate water back into our groundwater system, or how we can at least treat water that's coming off of the road, treat it before it gets into our storm drain system and ultimately to the ocean. So you'll see more and more throughout the city, biofiltration swales, basins, dry wells, where we're injecting water underground, filtera units, or modular wetland units, and those are, you know, you'll see them next to catch basins where there'll be another opening where water comes in, you'll see a tree in there, and that water is coming in, being filtered through that tree and the soil that's within there before it gets into the catch basin and goes to the storm drain. So we're constantly looking and mandated to do those types of things with our projects.
Thank you.
This is Chair Jermaine. I have a question back to, or a comment. With the construction project map and the links that are available, does it also, is there a way where it could be beneficial where if someone spots a project, but it's not in your index of construction projects, or for them to basically do a fact check or an alert or somehow get the communication needed? The reason why I bring that up is because in my neighborhood we experienced some wire stripping out of the street lights, and so I don't know if that subject falls under within this project or construction project map and the notifications that come up. So hopefully that was clear.
Yeah, I think so. If you ever notice a construction project going on that you don't see on this map, there's a phone number on there to call that goes directly to our office. Please call us and we can see if that's something that, needs to get put on the map, or maybe it's a permit where a utility company is coming in for, a short period of time and doing something. Those are not on this map.
Thank you. Moving on to comments. Yeah, I'm sorry. Any other further comments or questions regarding this item?
Hello, Commissioner Romero. So what about the people that don't access the website, the city website, or use the city's app, the My Santa Ana app? And also those who may not read in English. I think that if along the process there could be some door knocking by either city staff or whatever, or you said every 2 years a company comes and analyzes the streets. I do think that there could be residents that have valid opinions on their own street. So if that could be a part of your process, I think that would be very important, just to ensure everybody is considered in that decision.
Yes, absolutely. We do often come out and do community outreach before these projects, so we're not just relying on this website. For example, we have one coming up on April 21st. Almost all of our projects where we have that community outreach that goes out. In addition to that, the contractor, part of their job, and it's specified in their contract that they have to do door hangers and notifications as well prior to construction activities. So we're open to, if somebody doesn't have access to the internet and they want to, our doors are always open at the city. They can call, they can come in. We have people that can speak Spanish and or will be able to translate, and we can provide the information to them. Also, when we do our outreach, we always do it in Spanish and English.
This is Commissioner Walker. I know you said the capital improvement projects, you can view it on a map, but I recently met with a group with City Manager Stanton, and they showed us their Let's Talk Stanton website, and it shows all the development in the city on a Google map, and very similar to the construction project map here. You can click on a little, geotag and then see what the project is, including ones that are in progress that can be coming down the road. So I would just like to ask if we could, simplify future projects for folks, make it more digestible for them to kind of see what's going to come down the road. And then I very much applaud you for making the spreadsheet very visible for the public, but it's a little hard to digest. So I would just want to offer and see if we'd be able to make this a little more, easy for folks to look through and be able to figure out. It's a lot of different data points on here, but if there's a way to click through
Sure, no problem. We're always open to suggestions and we're always looking to improve our face to the community. So definitely we're open to making any improvements.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that suggestion. In fact, the city is redesigning its website, including all of the public works web pages, and maybe in future meetings, we'll bring that topic for you to show how the public works web pages have been designed. We're proud of the work, and it's looking a lot better, and I think it's more simplified than what you have here. We redesigned the web pages to keep that in mind and make it more simple. So thank you for that, and we'll bring it back to you, absolutely.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thomas, for that presentation. Commissioner Jermaine, moving on to comments and updates from staff and commissioners. Are there comments or updates from staff members?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Nabil Saba, Director of Public Works. I would like to provide you with an update. I know Commissioner Benninger has been asking me and staff about electric vehicles, and he wanted an update from us on what is the city's initiative to go electric. So I have a written statement here that from staff that is summarizing what the city's activity to transition to electric vehicles. And so that the Fleet Services Division, which is a part of the Public Works Agency, supports the city departments in accomplishing their operational goals through the cost-effective purchase of vehicles and equipment, and by providing preventive maintenance and unscheduled deliveries. The city fleet consists of approximately 625 vehicles. The Fleet Services Division is also responsible for procuring city vehicles, which include electric vehicles and EV charging stations throughout the city. The city currently services and operates 24 fleet electric vehicles deployed in various departments. One electric vehicle charger was installed at the Russ Annex in approximately 2012. The city installed 13 additional electric vehicle charging stations in 2018 at the City Hall, downtown, the corporate yard, and the Santa Ana Regional Transportation Center. The following location, I have addresses of all of the EV charging stations that the city has built. Some on 4th Street, some on 3rd Street, on Birch, Main, 5th Street, Santiago Street, and at South Center. So I have the addresses if you're interested, but those are the locations where we have charging stations. Electric vehicle fleet expansion and EV charging station expansion. So the city is aggressively pursuing grant initiatives from the Mobile Source Air Pollution Reduction Committee, which is the MSRC, for the purchase of new vehicles and installation of charging stations by investing funds into communities to help reduce air pollution generated by mobile sources and improve air quality within the South Coast Air Quality Management District, the AQMD jurisdiction. The city is also collaborating with the Southern California Edison in pursuit of federal funds that would upgrade our grid system as part of the installation of EV charging stations. In addition, the Public Works Agency added a number of EV fleet vehicles as key performance measures for the fiscal year 22-23. That concludes my comments. I'm open for any questions you may have about electrifying our fleet.
Any Teslas in there?
We don't have Teslas. Mostly, I think we have Bolts, which I have one. Chevy Bolts. That's, I think, what we have. But we are right now upgrading some of our, actually adding more of EV charging stations. And we have, like I mentioned in this report, that we are reaching out to Edison. I believe Edison has a program, a grant program to add more. So we're working with Edison on providing Edison with locations, like maybe community centers and parks to add more charging stations. And I think there's funding available, and we are going to aggressively go after these fundings. And we also do get funding from the AQMD to provide air quality improvement projects. And every so often we use some of the money for the funds to purchase electric vehicles. And I know we were promised the first electric solid waste collection truck in July 1 by Republic. We'll see what happens. But so Santa Ana will probably have the first electric trash truck here. So that's my report. Again, if you have any more questions.
Sorry to take over, but on these 625 vehicles, does that include the police cars also?
I believe so, yes.
Has there been any inquiry or presentation to the city about electrified police cars?
I haven't heard of any requests, so that doesn't mean that, electric vehicles are much faster than a normal vehicle. So, but you have to charge them, and so.
Well, the old story has been you need a. The time I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, the police cars had the most busted around the car, Toad said, because they need that to chase somebody. Well, we look at how often a police car really does that. It's very, very small. So you wasted a lot of power going around the streets, and that's where I think we could make hay here in Santa Ana. As well as the fact I know that some of my buddies at Ford who've been in the development have been looking at electrifying police cars.
Yeah, we'll continue. I mean, our fleet group is continuously looking for opportunities to do away with diesel vehicles and such. In fact, I believe that coming up soon, we will retire the last diesel-driven utility vehicle in the city. So we will be celebrating that, and we're replacing that diesel equipment with CNG powered engines.
Thank you, Nabil. Are there comments from commissioners? Please state your name as you proceed.
Commissioner Greenside, since this is April, we all know that Earth Day is coming up, so we just wanted to make a plug and make sure that you spend some time to appreciate the earth on which we live. It's probably the best thing we got, as far as we know for now. So do everything in your power to show the graciousness that it gives to us every day and return it. And if you can participate in Earth Hour, all the power to you. Take a look up at those stars and make sure you fully recognize that we only have one place to call home. Thank you.
Commissioner Romero, so I'm glad that you mentioned those electric vehicles, because something I was gonna say regarding the watershed weather modification pilot program was to think about how to reduce carbon emissions, if that is something we need to now try to do, and also to continue to involve Indigenous voices in any of those conversations that you have with what is his name? Mark Norton? Yeah. And then I really enjoy the idea of the neighborhood block transformation contest. When I didn't judge them last year, but I attended the revealing of the sign in the neighborhoods, and it was beautiful to see excited community residents get together and do this. But I did get sad a little bit because I know in my neighborhood, they probably didn't know about this contest, and I'm wondering how involved they would be able to get into a contest like this. I know there's a lot of talented people in my neighborhood who would love to beautify the block, but may not really know about this, or, you know, be able to add a fence or add plants or repair a garage door, especially if there's a lot of apartments. So I appreciate the idea, and I know that the city is doing a lot for the community, but I just really want more of that outreach, and possibly even assisting with some of the resources to help beautify, maybe getting donations, and whoever applies for the contest, possibly getting, you know, having a question there, do you need assistance buying some materials? That way there isn't that block there.
Sure, we will take all of these suggestions, and we're continuously improving the program, and like you know, it used to be beautification, now it's transformation, not just the name, but also the approach. I know Michelle is doing a lot of work in the outreach, and will continue. We'll actually look for other opportunities for outreach and see. I agree with you that we need to reach out more, but it's a challenge to just reach the residents. But we do go to most of the neighborhood associations, and we make these flyers available, and they are on our website, but you know, website and social media is not always the best way. But we'll continue to look for opportunities, not on those. So thank you.
This is Commissioner Manager. One, I want to thank Public Works for the presentations today. I thought they were super. I also want to let this group know that one problem we've had in the city as far as outreach goes is our neighborhood associations have not been able to meet because of what's going on with the school board in the city. And I'm very happy tonight to say that there's a proposal going in front of the school board tonight, which I feel very positive about, that will rectify that. So I'm sure after tonight, we'll be able to start meeting southern neighborhoods again. That's a good way for outreach to get the information out.
Thank you, Carl, for that. I know you're a champion.
I just bruised my head a few times.
Seeing, I'm sorry. Any commissioners have any other comments or future items?
Commissioner Walker, going off of Commissioner Rivera's comment, I just Googled to see what the Love Santa Ana organization has been up to, and it doesn't seem like they've had any events. And I know in kind of more northern cities in Orange County, they started up their projects, their initiatives again. So I think I've seen like a Love Winter Park and a couple other cities up north. So I was wondering if there's a way for maybe to connect to that group and see if we can have beautification projects in neighborhood blocks, if that might be a good opportunity for us to get exposure to the neighborhoods and let them know this project exists, and maybe give them some support and resources and volunteers that can do that.
Commissioner Walker, what is the name of the organization you mentioned? Was that Love Santa Ana?
Yes, it should be Love Santa Ana. LoveSantaAna.org.
Thank you.
We will definitely reach out to them.
Are there any comments or future items?
Hi, this is Commissioner McLaughlin.
Hi, Commissioner McLaughlin, go ahead.
To the point, I'd like to advise all the folks that are possibly new, the great works that Comlink has done in the last 20 years. And they have the most beautiful yard, and the neighborhoods participate in that, and they get like a real estate sign that has a great picture on it or logo and says, "You're the most beautiful yard." And it's voted objectively, and it doesn't put one neighbor against another neighbor in terms of asking your neighbor across the street to paint his peeling paint or something like that. And Carl, do you want to speak to how tremendous it is when 300 people from the neighborhoods come and fill up the Bowers Museum large room to receive the honors of the most beautiful yard?
Thank you, Jill. This is Commissioner Benninger again. Yes, it's very successful for the neighborhoods, and actually it started with the city, and we picked it up back in '08 when the city wanted to drop it. And it's, I think, complements what Public Works is trying to do here very well, because I saw the same excitement in the neighborhoods when we gave out the awards last year, and it brings the neighborhoods together. We're looking at individual yards, this is looking at a whole area to look at, so that's kind of different, but I think it's hand in hand.
Again, this is Commissioner McLaughlin. I've been around for about 28 years. I'm in Ward 3. I live in Floral Park. And this project, I know I have not been supportive of because Floral Park got two awards within 625 houses. We got 2 beautiful streets, and our neighborhood association is one of the most wealthy with our fundraiser, and they gave money to make these beautiful streets. And I don't think it's fair for all of the other neighborhoods throughout the city. Ward 3 got all 3 of the awards, and I am very much supportive of Miss Welker that we need to, if it's flyer it or walk it or do something, but this is not all inclusive. And I still, as I protested it last year, of not being fair to the other neighborhoods. And if we put money towards making it fair to the other neighborhoods, I support it. But the way it's done now, the neighborhood associations that are well-formed, well-funded, are taking all of the glory from it. And it's just not fair to the other neighborhoods. So it's nice to say we're going to try to reach out, but there's got to be a better plan of reaching out to be more encompassing. And I don't want to speak the first time as negative, but it's just not fair. So that's it. Congratulations, Carl. And I just think the city needs to put some money behind it, or instead of doing this project, to enhance the Comlink project that is so well attended, so well. If you see 2 rows of neighbors coming out to support their friend that has worked in their garden and made their house the most beautiful house, and they're hooping and hollering and cheering. Comlink is doing it. We're trying to reinvent the wheel. I think we put our money towards Comlink, support Comlink, and expand that instead of trying to do something new. It's amazing how fabulous the most beautiful yard event is and how well organized it is. That's my say. Thanks for listening, folks.
Thank you, Commissioner McLaughlin. Moving on to the meeting adjournment. The next regular ETAC meeting is scheduled at 4 p.m. on May 10th, 2022. The meeting will be an in-person meeting. The ETAC meeting of April 12th, 2022 is adjourned at 5:31 p.m.